Hey, Pretty Girl Club. Welcome back to the Decentering Men series. And in this episode, I want to talk about the men who specifically target the smart women, the ambitious women, and they target those women simply so they can ride their coattails. So, on this channel, I talk a lot about social climbing and dark femininity. Those qualities are qualities that men recognize as well. So, oftentimes, if a man notices that you light up the room, he sees how professional you are, he sees how you know how to build yourself from the ground up. A lot of men are not natural builders. So, this concept of men being natural protectors and providers, I don't believe that that is actually in a man's nature. I actually believe that women are more like that than men. But I've noticed that oftentimes codependent men who do not know how to build themselves up, they will seek after these professional women who seem to have it all. He will see how good you are at starting businesses. He will see your work ethic. He will see all of these amazing qualities about you, and it will cause him to quote unquote fall in love with you. And one of the main ways that you can tell why your man is in love with you is just ask him, because most of the time, men will name either the ways in which you serve them, or he will name the qualities that you have that he himself does not have. Has anyone else ever noticed that? Has anyone noticed how men tend to seek out women with qualities who are different than themselves so that he can benefit off of those qualities? For example, the dirty men who have bad hygiene who seek after women who are very good at cleaning, or the men who are socially awkward and socially anxious. They seek after the social butterflies. The poor men who seek after rich women, or they seek after these women who are upwardly mobile. This is a very common phenomenon that I see in relationships. A lot of men realize that without a woman, they will never achieve their dreams. I've talked in other previous episodes about how most men don't even have a social life if he doesn't have a girlfriend. The main way that a man has emotional support or things to do is if he has either a girlfriend, a sister, his mother. Men don't have relevance if they don't have women in their lives, because men's relationships with one another, they often lack depth. So a lot of men, they can't open up to their friends and cry on their friend's shoulder, or, have a picnic at the park with their guy friends. No, most men don't even do that. A lot of men just tend to sit in their apartments and play video games all night, or, they scroll on the computer all night, and that's all they do. So, you know how in other episodes I've talked about the men who will impregnate you to slow you down? So, those are the men who want to hold you back. In this video, I'm talking about the opposite. These are the men who they want you to succeed. They want to push you forward because he knows that he will benefit off of your success. He knows that he is going to benefit off of your clout. So these are the men where, let's say you bought a house, he wants to move into your house with you. Let's say you bought a business, he wants you to suddenly teach him how to run a business, or he's hoping that you will even employ him. And a lot of women don't realize that men are riding their coattails, because a lot of guys do this in subliminal ways. So, for example, weaponized incompetence. That's one of the main ways that men can ride your coattails, because he'll say things like, oh, I don't know how to cook. I don't know how to eat healthy. I don't even know what types of meals I'm supposed to eat. And so then this puts all of the onus on the woman to figure out how to manage his health. So he's basically riding your coattails in terms of his health care. You are like his own personal at-home doctor who is making sure that he gets his proper fiber and iron, and he gets all of his supplements. That's an example of him riding your coattails, because he is utilizing your soft skills to his advantage. And when I use the term soft skills, I'm talking about that invisible labor that the woman does in the household. I'm talking about the emotional labor that the woman does. I'm talking about how thoughtful women are, because we've been socialized to be very thoughtful. We like to think ahead when it comes to certain things. A lot of guys are not like this. Has anyone noticed that a lot of men lack foresight? So, for example, I've been to guys' houses where they're sleeping on a rock hard bed, their couch is all nasty, they'll have like bugs in their house and stuff because they don't have foresight. They have not thought about this, like, oh, wait, I need to buy a vacuum cleaner. Wait a minute, I need to make sure that I spray around my property to make sure that no bugs come in here. Wait a minute, I need to make sure that my mattress is good for my back and my spine so that it stays properly aligned while I'm sleeping. A lot of guys do not have the same level of foresight as women. So that's another huge way that men will ride off of your coattails. If you're one of those girls who's good at planning and you're really good at organizing, you organize the pantry, you organize what groceries you're going to buy. You write stuff down on your calendar and you're like, okay, Saturday is when I'm going to eat this type of food, it's when I'm going to do this workout. Men will utilize that to his advantage, and he will use that to build himself up. And then by the time you discard him, so let's say you guys get a divorce or he discards you, by the time that's done, he has leveled up exponentially because he had access to a free doctor for 10 years. You were his free womb. You were raising his kids. So now he gets to brag about little Johnny going to college. He's basically riding your parenting coattails because women are often the default parents. So he's riding your coattails as the parent, and then he gets to brag in front of everyone and be seen as the greatest dad in town. Meanwhile, you were the one who was doing all of the work behind the scenes. You were the one who was strategizing, like, okay, let's make sure that Johnny gets into this good public school, or let's make sure he gets into all these after school programs. So that's what I mean when I say a lot of men want to ride your coattails. And has anyone else noticed how a lot of guys will lie and they'll say, we don't care about your degrees, we don't care about your social status, we don't care about your income? That's actually a lie, because every woman that a man worships is a woman who has social status. Beauty is a form of social status. All these celebrities and pop stars and stuff that these guys lust after, that is a huge form of social status. Porn stars, that's a form of status. That's a form of social status. You're a famous porn person, and you also have all of these plastic surgeries and body enhancements, which are considered another form of status in our society. So men will specifically be attracted to women who have these different forms of status, or women with no kids, being a child-free woman. And then, especially if he's a baby daddy, he's going to view that as a form of status. Your youth, in comparison to his, that's a form of status. So a lot of men, they will seek after women. They'll say, oh no, it's just because I love you. They won't tell you that your status is playing a huge role in why he likes you. So if he's 65 years old, you're 35 years old, he knows, okay, she's going to be here to take care of me when I die. Like, she's nice and young, she's strong, she's got energy. So she's going to have the energy to like wheel me around in my wheelchair at the park or wipe my diapers later on. That is an example of him riding your coattails. He knows that he has a free caregiver, and in the meantime, you are not out enjoying your youth. You're not out enjoying your life because you have been trapped into this caregiving role. By the way, speaking of riding coattails when it comes to health, has anyone ever been in a situation where you'll get married to a guy and then suddenly he starts abandoning his health? He lets himself go. He lets himself get all fat. He just sits around and drinks beers and stuff because he feels like, oh, I'm good now because I'm going to have somebody to take care of me. I'm not going to die alone. And I've noticed that a lot of men are very negligent by nature. So a lot of them will like neglect their health. A lot of them will neglect their own children, and they won't actually parent their children, even if he is present in the home. Because all these people like to talk about how it's better to have a two-parent home. But it's like, okay, even if he is in the home, simply having a warm body in the home, that doesn't mean anything. Like, just because he's sitting there and he's not actually being emotionally available to his children, what does that really mean? So that's another example of him still riding your coattails. He's living in the house with you. He's profiting off of your income. He's profiting off of your cooking skills. He's benefiting from your caregiving skills. He's benefiting from your youth because you're the one with the vitality. You're the one who has not wasted your life. You still have another 35 years to build some extra wealth. A lot of guys who have wasted their lives in poverty, they want to try to like save themselves when they get older. So they'll be like, okay, oh shit, I'm 65 and like I only have $50,000 to my name. So let me try to get a young, smart girl who's like a 35-year-old doctor. She just started her career and she's already making 150K. So yeah, let me try to get her to fall in love with me and stuff so that she can marry me so that I can have access to her wealth. And another way that guys ride women's coattails, and nobody's talked about this on YouTube, entrepreneurs. A lot of guys will specifically seek out women who have an entrepreneurial spirit because he knows damn well that his 9 to 5 job working at the factory is not going to give him the same level of a financial promotion as a woman who starts her own business. So I know that a lot of businesses fail, but let's say you're a woman who has a very small business. Maybe you have a lash business, or you have your own little nail shop, or you own a small bakery or something. Men know that your business can double within 1 year, it can triple within 1 year, it can quadruple. But a lot of people who work 9 to 5 jobs, their salary, it's not common for it to double and triple and quadruple. So one of the ways that men will ride women's coattails is they will specifically go after these young, ambitious women who are, they have their own little businesses, they have their own little side hustles and stuff. And he will see, oh, wow, she has a good work ethic. She might only be making $1,000 this month, but I mean, she just started her business and she's already profitable. So if she can make $1,000, she can make 2,000. And if she can make 2,000, she can make 4,000 and then 8,000, then 10,000. So a lot of guys, they see a woman's upward trajectory in terms of finances and they want to latch themselves onto you. So sometimes a guy will use his financial status to entice you when you're young because he'll be like, "Oh, hey, I'm a doctor. I'm making 150,000." And so let's say you're about 35 years old, you only make $50,000 at your small business. You're thinking, "Okay, this is a great deal. He makes double what I make." But a lot of women aren't thinking about their own potential. So it's like your business that you have right now, your small business, yeah, it might be making $50,000 right now, but this guy knows that you're smart enough to double this business and quadruple this business. And it's so funny because a lot of times guys believe in women more than we believe in ourselves. And this gives them the advantage when it comes to trying to manipulate us because he will be able to see, oh, wow, she's really good at doing hair. Wow, she's really good at doing her small business. In 10 years, she's going to be worth 500,000. And so cool, I get to live the soft life because I'm still making 150 at my job and she's making 500,000 and now I've got access to that 500,000. So now if she divorces me, she might have to pay me alimony. She might have to pay me some money in the divorce. And I feel like a lot of guys use hypogamy as a way to trap a woman in the marriage. So for example, for the ambitious women, he will specifically marry you right at the end of law school or, right when you first start your job as a doctor. And then he will stall in his career. Like he will purposely become, not that good or use weaponized incompetence. He'll start like doing the bare minimum at work, not getting as many promotions. And then he will just let the woman continue to grow her income. And then that woman can end up feeling trapped because she's like, oh shit, now I'm making 600K per year and our household income is like 700K, but if I leave him, I have to split everything with him 50-50. So I'm losing a good amount of my wealth. Did you know that that's actually a humbling tactic that men can use to trap the woman? He has this mindset of, oh, what are you going to do? Leave me? You're going to leave me and pay me alimony? I don't think so. And a lot of women actually end up trapped in these marriages because they really don't want to have to pay their ex hundreds of thousands of dollars and give that ex 50-50 custody over their children. So a lot of guys end up trapping women in these marriages because that guy is like a financial dead weight. It's like you only have two options: either stay with me and let me keep living off of you or profiting off of your income that's higher than mine now, or leave me and now you have to sell this nice house. You have to give me 50% of your retirement. Did you know that there are some states where they actually have laws to where if you were together for a certain number of years, you actually have to split your retirement funds with that person. So even if you put in more money in the retirement, you still have to split the retirement account. Another way that men can ride a woman's coattails is in terms of emotional intelligence. Oftentimes, if a man is with a woman who's really smart and she articulates herself well, that guy will take that woman's talking points. He will take her personality, basically. He will take everything he's learned from her and use it to impress his side chick or use it to impress another woman so that he can come off like he's so smart and so emotionally intelligent. And that's another way that men can ride women's coattails. It is something that they can do to benefit socially. Men can actually use a woman's presence to social climb and to increase their own socioeconomic status. There are plenty of articles about how men who are married and men who are married with kids, how they get promoted more easily and how they are basically pedestalized in society because people tend to view married men as more disciplined and more mature because it's kind of like, oh, you got picked. Like a woman was willing to commit her life to you, so therefore you must be a great person. Another way that men can ride a woman's coattails is in terms of lifestyle. So let's say he lives in a studio apartment and you live in your own house. Let's say his house is in the ghetto and your house is in the suburbs. And then when you guys get married, then of course he moves over to your house. That's an example of riding your coattails. He is literally increasing his lifestyle. He has the opportunity to now live in an entirely different home that he didn't have to pay for any of the furnishings. He didn't have to organize anything. He didn't have to clean anything. He didn't have to purchase the appliances. He's just moving into your house. And so he gets to ride your coattails. He's riding your coattails into a whole new lifestyle upgrade for himself. This happens all the time. And by the way, has anyone else noticed how once women gained the potential to operate without a man's supervision, then women actually became less interested in marriage because we no longer were depending on a man's wealth or his status, and our survival was no longer based on finding a man. And notice how now the tables have turned. Now men are more interested in marriage than ever. They're more interested in children than ever. And that makes sense because a lot of women end up in these 50-50 marriages and they take care of the children. So of course it benefits the man more. So with women opting out of this dynamic, men are getting upset about it because they can no longer ride our coattails in terms of survival, having a free womb, a free sex worker, a free maid, a free status symbol, even with your genes, because this is a channel for black women, mixed race black women. And so a lot of people will fetishize you and they just want their children to look like you because they view it as a sign of social status that their children have a particular hair texture or phenotype. So that's another form of literally riding coattails and creating this whole entire status symbol lifestyle for himself. And men have been able to do that because the women were doing the majority of the work. They were putting in the majority of the emotional labor. And when I say emotional labor, I mean that the woman pays more attention to the man than the man pays to the woman. But have you noticed how ever since women stopped needing marriage to survive financially, now the marriage rates have gone down? I did another video about how marriage rates have declined by about 60%. And this has everything to do with women outnumbering men in terms of education. So we're outnumbering men in colleges, we are outnumbering men when it comes to all sorts of things. So not only are we better at educating ourselves and leveling up and kind of building and protecting and providing for ourselves, but also women in general seem to be more motivated. Has anyone noticed that a lot of men, they don't have motivation unless it has to do with subjugating women or getting a woman to sleep with him or getting a woman to want him or building his own female orbit around himself? A lot of men will have no motivation once you take women out of the picture. In fact, I've seen plenty of Reddit posts where men have said, hey, what's the point of having a house and having a job and a car if a woman is still not going to want me? This tells me that men are actually so women-centered to the point where almost everything they have done in their lives has been revolving around the hope that they will one day be able to subjugate a woman, or that a woman will want him, or that a woman will want to like submit to him. That's another thing too. That's another way that men can actually ride your coattails, is because you become almost like his employee, and they will use this talking point of submission, like, well, you need to submit to me, I'm the head of the household. And so you're doing all of this behind the scenes labor that he's getting credit for. You're managing his business behind the scenes, you're doing the accounting, you're doing his taxes for him, you're doing all of this labor behind the scenes, and he's actually riding your coattails. But to the public, it looks like you're riding his, when it's really the opposite. Honestly, I believe that this whole narrative that women want marriage more than men, I actually think it's false. I think it's the exact opposite. I think that men tend to be way more codependent than women, and I think men actually want women way more than women want men. So much so to the point where a lot of men, they're just desperate for even female friendships or female friends with benefits, female just a girlfriend or whatever. Like, a lot of men are seeking after women because women have more survival skills in general. A lot of women have so many different skills. We can do things around the house, whether it's cooking or cleaning. I've even seen TikToks of women like building shelves and like building certain things around the house. And we have all of these varieties of skills because of all the hats that women have been made to wear just in society. A lot of society as a whole is very tough on women in the sense that you're expected to be sexy and feminine, yet you also have to be smart, and you have to be good at parenting and good at nurturing and kind and understanding, and you need to have social skills. Whereas a lot of men, from the time they're little boys all the way up until they're adults, a lot of little boys actually get neglected emotionally because a lot of parents have this mindset of, well, boys will be boys. And so they just let them run wild. A lot of boys are not even taught social skills. A lot of boys are not even taught how to have a decent conversation where you allow the other person space to talk. Has anyone noticed how a lot of men are the ones who have the tendency to interrupt people? They have the tendency to talk over people, to get mad, to start cursing and yelling and throwing things. A lot of women have not been socialized in the same way. But when it comes to boys, people have this mindset of boys will be boys. And so they have almost like this hands off parenting when it comes to boys. And then this makes these men extremely emotionally immature. It makes them emotionally immature. About 90% of men just have bad survival skills in general. Because remember, patriarchy, it hurts men as well. Patriarchy really only benefits the men maybe at the very top, so like the richest men, because most men will spend their lives being employees to other men. And so this is why men want marriage the most, because the only thing that's going to make him feel special and relevant is if he has a woman to be his employee. But then he's going to make it look like, like you're riding his coattails or like he's the head of the house, because that's kind of the stereotype when it comes to marriages, is that the woman is kind of the submissive one and that he is the leader of the household, when in reality it's that man that's actually riding your coattails. Hence why a lot of men are made fun of for not having a woman more than women are. For example, men have even created the term incel to make fun of each other when that man does not have a woman around him, or that man doesn't have a woman sleeping with him or whatever. It's because a lot of men, they don't have any self-worth or value outside of a woman, and they know that. Meanwhile, women, we have plenty of other resources and outlets and ways to be creative and ways to like nurture ourselves. Women on average are much better at building communities. And so if a man doesn't have a woman in his life, he's not going to have any community, because men, they're not good at building communities of men. Think about it. I don't see men's groups gaining as much popularity as women's groups. There are way more resources for women versus men. And this is because the women have actually, we have created these resources for each other. A lot of men are so hyper independent to the point where they're actually threatened by other men. And so I just think it's hilarious when people say men are protectors and providers. And it's like, protecting me from what? From other men? Because men themselves are threatened by other men. So of course they're not going to be good at building communities with each other because they're too busy competing with one another. Men will literally start punching each other because of a basketball game, or because of a poker game, or because they played pool and somebody lost. And so I'm supposed to believe that suddenly men are good at creating communities? No, they're not. A lot of them would not have any sense of community if it weren't for him having some sort of girlfriend or wife. And so a lot of men, they seek after wives so that he can ride your coattails into your community. So remember, if you are in a relationship with a guy, the guy is the lucky one. And I'm not saying that like you're not lucky or whatever, but seriously, the guy is actually the one that is lucky. He's the one that's benefiting and has a privilege to even be in your presence. And so this is why I will forever say that you are a prize. But what do you ladies think? Have you ever had a man try to ride your coattails? Have you ever had a man ask you to apply for jobs for him or apply for scholarships and stuff? Because that's something that men would ask me to do. I mean, in my past, I would write a man's resume. I would do a little fake mock interview with him, teaching him what to say, how to answer. A lot of women do stuff like this. And those are all examples of men actually riding your coattails to the top, because he's taking your ideas, your skills, he's taking your administrative skills in writing resumes or applying for jobs or filling out paperwork. And that's a form of him riding your coattails. But what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.